Hello and welcome back to Story Stash. I'm your host Duncan, and these are some of my stories I've written. Today I'm reading from my book Star Guardian, and this is chapter 19. So let's get on with the story. Chapter 19, More Foe. Not enough time. Jem won't give up this system, so we must defend it. The problem is that another race believes it to be theirs. It has been in their possession for about 1,000 years. They have had more and bigger vessels, with superior weapons, and a bad attitude. It's only a matter of time before they send more vessels. We were 3 beings and 1 vessel against an unknown number of foe and vessels. The odds were against us, bordering on impossible. If only we had more time. Later, Ship announced the departure of the probe for the foe system. I watched it on the tactical display as it proceeded towards the edge of the system. Jem and Kaluna were elsewhere, probably in our cabin, I figured. Ship, how are you doing with the derelict vessels? I've recovered one of the memory cores from the vessel for analysis, said Ship. Please examine the bodies of the crews over there. Did you detect any baglogy amongst them? There was a pause while Ship queried the probe. Negative. All bodies are of an alien race, said Ship. I breathed a sigh of relief. I didn't know what Ship would do if I had killed any baglogy. It had a protocol to preserve the baglogy species. I was also glad I asked this without Jem present. Ship, it's likely Jem is the last baglogy. Even with my close genetic match, what is your assessment of the chances of restoring a population of baglogy in this system? I didn't know if Ship could answer this question. The chances are low, Commander. We don't have enough baglogy, plus the hostile environment doesn't allow for it, said Ship. I agreed with his assessment. Okay, new topic. Ship, you said you could gather raw materials from within the system to manufacture probes. Could you reclaim materials from the destroyed extra node on the planetoid and perhaps the derelict vessels? Affirmative. They contain refined metals, which I'll need the most. Ship, can you build a separate manufacturing facility on that planetoid? I'd like it to gather and recycle materials from within the system. It can then build adequate system defenses tailored to work against the foe. As we gain more data and improve weapons or defensive capabilities, we can pass them on to the facility. Some lights blinked. Affirmative, Commander. I can build a probe with construction bots to complete the task. Please do so. Confirmed. The probe will be complete and deployed in 2 hours, said Ship. Thank you, Ship. This will create our system defenses. That will improve our security. We must hold the system against invaders until that time, I said. Confirmed. I found Kaluna and Jem in our cabin, talking. They greeted me with hugs. Hello, Brian. How are you doing? Said Kaluna. Good, thanks. I've been neglecting you two for long enough, I said with a grin. That earned me some smiles. Any news? Asked Jem. The probe has left en route for the foe system. I watched it on the tactical display for a while. How about you? I replied. We were just talking, nothing important, said Jem. Like I believe that. I was working on a project with Ship to establish a permanent system defense. Early days yet. If we don't get interrupted by more foe vessels, we should see improvements in a few days, I shared. Excellent, said Jem. Well, I knew you were unlikely to concede this system to the foe. I hope you don't mind. No, I gave you command authorization because I trust you to use it wisely. Just keep us updated, she said, while smiling at me. Of course. I nodded my head. Have you eaten? Asked Kaluna. Not yet, I replied. She got up and wandered towards the food dispenser. How about some of my favorite Ori stew? I can dial down the spices for you, said Kaluna. Sure. Jem? I asked. We'd actually been talking about getting some dinner together before you came in, Jem said. Kaluna placed a big bowl of stew on the middle of the table and arranged some serving bowls. I took a seat and Kaluna served me out a portion. I think she liked to share some of her culture with us. We enjoyed a pleasant meal together. I tried to remain attentive to my partners, although the discussion topics were not my first choice. These days I didn't know when my last meal was. I'd be present for each one until my last. Attention, multiple vessels are arriving in the system, said Chip. We'd just finished our meal and were sitting back at the table. Crap! Ship, we're on our way to the main bridge. Please have a more detailed report waiting for when we arrive, said Jem. I wondered if that probe had left for the other side of the system yet. We jumped up and hastened to the main bridge. The tactical display showed 3 more dots at the edge of the system and moving towards Baglaji 4. This was what I had expected. If the extra node had believed in our fake battle fleet and sent that information, then it made sense. Chip, do these vessels match the previous ones? I asked. Confirmed. 3 faux vessels on a course towards Baglaji 4. The quiet was nice while it lasted. I looked at Jem and she nodded at me. Chip, order the 2 probes to deploy nanobots ahead of the path of the incoming vessels. Then have them turn back towards Baglaji 4. Correction, have 1 probe turn away from Baglaji 4. I also need to block their retreat. There was a slight pause while Ship got in touch with the probes. Confirmed, said Ship. We saw a representation of the clouds of nanobots on the display. The faux vessels were turning slightly. They might miss the nanobot. Crap! Ship, contact the probe at the derelict vessel. I need it to decloak and do something that will light up on their sensors. I need it now. Pause. Confirmed. The tactical display showed the 3 vessels slowed down. Then they turned back towards the derelict vessels. I'd hoped they'd do this. They were back on the course I wanted for them, going straight for the nanobots. Excellent. They're going after the source of that signal. Hopefully, they're scanning the derelict vessels by now and won't see the nanobots right under their noses, exclaimed Jem. I looked at her with hope plastered on my face. This has to work. We waited as the 3 dots on the tactical display inched closer, passing through the nanobot's cloud. Soon, they were moving erratically. We had them. Ship, as last time, shut down the nanobots after explosive decompression and termination of life signs. Scan for outgoing signals. I should be happy if the probe farthest out from Baglaji 4 could send out a jamming signal, I said. Confirmed. Unfortunately, the probe isn't equipped to send out a jamming signal, said Ship. Understood. The longer we can keep our nanobots a secret, the longer they'll remain effective against the foe. How can we move those vessels out of sight? If the next wave of faux vessels arrive and see the growing number of dead vessels, they'll be wary. I don't want a cautious opponent. I'd rather they're overconfident and reckless and stumble into our nanobots, I said. How long before more arrive? Asked Jem. Based on the first 2 waves, another may arrive within 2 days, I replied. Ship, do we have time to tow them away and return to safety in 2 days? Asked Jem. Negative. We'd be in the open when the next wave arrives, Ship replied. Kaluna jumped into the discussion. Can you supply power to the sublight engines on each vessel? You only need a short pulse to get them moving. Negative, Ship replied. Extensive damage to sublight engines and power cores on all faux vessels. Can you get a probe to give a vessel a push? I asked. The mass of the vessel far exceeds the specifications of the propulsion, Ship replied. Wait, I've an idea. Jem, we've seen that the foe vessels couldn't detect the cloaked probes. We take Ship out from hiding behind this moon and tow the most recent vessels. If more foe vessels turn up, we cloak and hide on the other side of Bagla G4, I said. Yes, Ship, move out from behind this moon and set a course for the recent vessels. Our mission is to tow those three out of sight behind Bagla G4. If you detect vessels arriving in the system, cloak and hide on the other side of Bagla G4, said Jem. Confirmed. Moving out now, said Ship. Ship, please prepare 2 more probes with cloak and nanobots. See if you can add signal jamming capability. Wait until we get to the recent vessels and then deploy them. Calculate an optimal positioning for the 4 probes so we have a better chance of deploying nanobots in the path of incoming foe vessels, I said. I turned to Jem. We need the nanobots to work at least once more. I have nothing else ready. Agreed. We've done well so far, wiping out 6 of their vessels. We were outgunned and outnumbered, said Jem. I wish we didn't have to destroy so many foe vessels. Their crews all died a meaningless death in space, said Kaluna. Yes, but it was them or us, I replied. Well, that's the end of Chapter 19, and next episode is Chapter 20, Third Wave. Hope to see you then. Until then, goodbye.